What is enlightenment? In my view, enlightenment, I'm a Hawkins student. Enlightenment is when the ego, um, it's the death of the ego, so that one remains in the infinite fields for good and one is immune to falling back into the ego again. So it's like, as Hawkins described it, as Ramana Maharishi described it, they both more or less said the same thing. Both were teachers of enlightenment, Ramana and Hawkins, and more or less described the death of the ego in a very similar fashion. So suddenly, as you devoted towards enlightenment and dissolving the ego with 100% ferocity, maybe not in Ramana, that was a slightly different to Hawkins, but anyway, similar. Suddenly, a huge terror comes of the death of the ego. And I've had that experience and didn't go through, so I can share how to fail it. But both Hawkins and Ramana went through the fear. They had the courage to allow the ego to die. And then on the other side, the ego dies in horrific pain. And then the illuminated light of God is so profound, the last vestiges of the ego are dissolved forever. And an infinite, eternal love and presence is so powerful that the ego can never emerge again. And one remains in that field of enlightenment, the fields of infiniteness. Whether one returns, if there's a world experienced or not, is depending on prior karmic contracts. But that field is immune now to just falling back into family members and the world pulling you out because that light is so present. The ego has actually died and it can't re-energize. So they do spiritual work and they get a glimpse of happiness and then they're back in their misery of their ego. That's not enlightenment. That's just a glimpse of being happy for a few moments. So enlightenment is the death of the ego and the state is now solid. So the ego can't really energize because it's died. So that's enlightenment, and that means one doesn't have to struggle with spiritual work, and get glimpses of Satori. One is in that field and it's stable, and one has earned it through going through the final death of the ego. So that's enlightenment that's my dictionary thing of what is enlightenment. Others may have different views. What is a dense work to help be around toxic family members? If you have to be around family members, and sometimes you do, you have parents or children or something, you can't just get rid of them. Or maybe you can, but maybe you can't. So the dense spiritual work is getting to the point where if you're immune to them pulling you into negativity. And with family members, usually that in my experience with my mother, it was 5 years, and I wanted to be around her, and there was nothing she could do or say that would disrupt me or take me in. So basically, it's to want no outcomes or expectations around my mother. There's nothing she can do, she say. I have no outcomes or expectations. 100% immune. I've shot a lot of videos on that. If you go to my YouTube channel and just click in, I don't know, just find the videos of relationships and how I transcended my mother. But basically, it involves not allowing her to hook me into negative conversations, changing the topic. Every time she would trigger me, it would mean I have to do hours or weeks of intense cancellation of beliefs and prayer, so that I'm aware that I'm now immune to that. And I would check out if I'm with her again that she can't trigger me. And if I did, again, hours of canceling in prayer to get rid of that thing until suddenly, if she did that thing, it wouldn't trigger me and I would still stay untriggered. And I had to do that with everything that could trigger me until there was nothing that triggered me. My experience was actually quite miraculous. Here's the thing. I just wanted to do the spiritual work so she couldn't trigger me. But when I found that she couldn't trigger me, she actually changed. So it was a pleasant surprise. And we had a wonderful relationship. She was absolutely loving. We'd go to the films together. We had a really meaningful time. And really, it wasn't her the problem. It was me having all my crap that stopped her from changing. So that was the great thing about doing the inner work and transcending, is it helps the other person, the relationship transforms. So it's not about controlling the other person ever. It's about letting go of my own rubbish. That was my experience with my mother and doing the work, which was years of spiritual work and just letting go. Forget my mother changing. It's all about me transcending my mother. Okay, let me just stop that and then I'll get to the next one.